Hey, good morning, folks. I'm out here at a national forest campground. I'm staying out here for 2 weeks, and a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, E-Waste Mike, sent me a product to do a review on. He said, "Sty, I think you would love doing a review on this." He said, "So can I send it to you?" And I said, "Well, sure you can." And so I need to do a disclosure to make sure everybody knows. The company did not provide me with this product. A friend of mine provided me with this product. This is not a promotion type video. I am not being paid or compensated in any way to do this video. This is all on my own. I've never used this product, and I'm very interested in it. Just so everybody knows. What is the product? Well, it came in this nice gold package. And here it is. Blackbeard Firestarter. Sent me a nice sticker. That sticker will end up going on the adventure trailer. I'm going to set that aside. Don't want it to get damaged. Heck, I'm just going to leave that sit there like that for now. And this is the product. Now this is really interesting. It's like a rope, okay? And it's covered with a plastic sheath around it. Now this stuff is supposed to be so easy to start fire with that even if it gets soaking wet, you can still get a fire to go with it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give it a test. So what we're going to do, the only things I have here is I got my trusty ferro rod and striker. Not a very large ferro rod. Some guys like to use these big old ferro rods. This is the one I carry with me. It's got a lanyard, carry it around my neck. And the only other tool I'm using is my SE5. The SE5, it's a heavy bushcrafting knife. Wonderful knife. They're a tad bit expensive, but it's a very nice knife. This I received actually from a viewer, from a very dear viewer. I received that about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I do get quite a bit of use out of it. So let's get at this thing. And now I've watched other videos, guys doing this. I haven't a clue what to expect. I'm going to flip this block over, I think. Yeah, that'll work. A little flatter surface. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece off the end. And we're going to see how it lights up. There we go. I just cut a chunk off. Now I'm going to cut that plastic off of it. Now, this is my opinion, but if you're going to use this, anything that's got plastic on it, please don't burn the plastic. Take it out with you. Okay, now this just breaks up. It breaks up into little pieces of, like, it's almost like cordage. Oh, and you get an awful lot just doing that. Now I'm going to take this piece and mess with it, untwist it, and oh yeah, look, the fibers, it comes apart just slick, breaks into nice little fibers. We're going to just do a bunch of these, break them into little fibers. easy to break apart too. I like that. I could have cut this chunk a little longer. Now if you're out in the field and it's an emergency situation, you're in a hurry, I would recommend that you would cut a piece longer than I did, probably a couple inches long, and work it up. It's easier to handle and quicker, and will give you, I'm sure, a much longer burn time and a lot less time involved in getting it set up. Well, there you go. I got this nice pile there. I'm going to set these other strands off to the side. I didn't even use, I used less than half of that little piece I cut off. Now that little piece was only as long as this piece of plastic. And look at all of that wouldn't fit in there now. It's just fluffed up like that. And that's how much is still left that came out of this little section, just maybe half inch to 3/4 of an inch, and I've got all this Firestarter. Let's see how fast that lights up. There we go. It only took a few strikes of the ferro rod to get her to start up. Well, let's see how long that burns. Wow, that's a big flame, a lot of heat. You got a good tinder pile, you could really get your fire going pretty quick with that, just that small amount. Now I got all of these pieces. I'm going to drop them on here. We'll see if we can extend the life of this fire. There we go. Now with just that simple amount, maybe a half inch of the end of this stick, just a half inch off the end, we've got that fire going. And it's been going for about a minute already, maybe a little more. So I would say you're going to get a 3 to 5 minute burn off of just off of a half inch of this stick. Now imagine how many fires that's going to provide you, that stick. I'm impressed. I really am. At this point, I really like how it's performing. It's a good burn. It's not a small, consistent flame. It's a nice, large, consistent flame. And it's very cold out today. And I tell you what, just this Firestarter is warming my hands up. Oh, yeah. Well, so at that stage, I'd say that's a success. So, knowing that, now we're going to take it one step further. I'm going to cut off a fair-sized piece. Three-quarters of an inch to an inch. Now you're going to want a sharp knife to cut this, because that's really tight, compacted material in there. And my Essie, I take a finger off, and it had to work to cut through that. Well, we'll get the plastic off. What have I got here? I got a cup of water, a container of water. We're going to take that container of water and we're going to compress. I got to take these gloves off. Yeah, it's a nice chilly morning here. It got down in the mid 30s last night. It's September 9th, but you know, take a look at this. It's still going. A little bit of stirring around and it flames right back up. So let's take a bunch of this and let's break these fibers up. Now I don't have my hopes too high on getting this lit with a ferro rod, but we can try a match or a cigarette lighter, which you should be carrying a lot of different options. People say, oh, well, I carry a ferro rod and a flint and steel, I'm good. Well, personally, I carry flint and steel sometimes. A lot of times I carry my hand drill kit, primitive methods of starting fires, and then there's times that I carry just my ferro rod and a box of matches. But 9 out of 10 times I've got a couple of cigarette lighters, a box of matches, my ferro rod, and then one primitive form, flint and steel or hand drill, or the fixins to make a bow drill. And I have to say that 9 out of 10 fires I start with the ferro rod. Anything that is a little questionable, I use a cigarette lighter. That had a long burn time to it. Now I'm getting quite the little pile going here. And what we're going to do is I'm doing up this whole piece, and it'll take me a little while to break these fibers down, but guess what? After these fibers are broke down, here's what I'm doing with them. Boom, right in that container of water. Take a stick, shove them down in there. Oh, I can tell already. Whatever they've got on these fibers is waterproof. So I'm going to just keep working on this. I'm going to put it all in here. I'm going to use this stick, shove it down in there and hold it down. And we're going to let that sit for 2 hours. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to see what's it take to get that to light after soaking in that water for 2 hours. Like anything else, if you did it once, can you do it twice? So I'm going to start another small pile off the ferro rod, just to know that it's consistently going to be able to be ignited off the ferro rod easily. There it goes. Now, is it going to light on your very first strike? Maybe. Is it going to light on your 10th strike? Maybe. But once it ignites, it's a nice, hot, good burn, and it's not that much effort to get it to ignite. So it ignites rather easily. Now, I'm a big fan of birch bark. I use birch bark for fire starting all the time. I got little bundles of it I carry in my packs. I would say this performs like birch bark. If you use fine birch bark shavings, they'll ignite about the same rate as this does. But one thing with birch bark is if it gets really wet, it's a bummer to try to get lit. If you get it lit, you're okay. But it's a bummer just getting it lit. Well, that's why we're doing this experiment. I got this Blackbeard Firestarter in this container of water, and we're letting that soak there for 2 hours. We're going to take it out, shake the water off of it, throw it on here, and I don't know that a ferro rod will get it going, but at least mine. But if not, I want to throw a cigarette lighter to it. Just see if it, when it's soaking wet, if you put flame to it, will it ignite? And will it maintain a fire to be able to start a campfire? So we'll find that out at the end of the 2 hour mark. So we'll see all in a bit. Oh yeah, look at look at the water drip off of that. Okay, I don't think I'm going to want to drink this. So we're going to take this. We'll take about half of the pile of it. There it is. And I'm going to squeeze the water out of it. I dropped a little piece. Oh yeah, there's quite a bit of moisture that I squeezed out. Now, keep in mind, I'm going to break the fibers back up. Keep in mind that if you're out in the field for any of your fire starters to get this soaking wet, boy, it had to have been quite the crisis you were in. Now, maybe you're canoeing or kayaking and you had a rollover and your fire kit got soaked straight through and you didn't realize how soaked it was, and it sat in that soaking wet fire kit for hours. Then I could see how potentially it would get this wet. Well, we're going to try putting a spark to this. I really don't have my hopes up because that is so wet. And this is going to take quite a bit, I'm sure. Well, folks, in a sense, bad news. my ferro rod is throwing plenty of hot spark to that. It just doesn't want to go. So we're going to give it a shot with a cigarette lighter. Yeah, it's not instantaneous. Okay, I got it going with a cigarette lighter. We'll see what it does. Didn't hold. We'll try it again. Even with cigarette lighter, it is very slow to go. But you got to keep in mind it was soaking wet. It's taking a little bit for it to get itself going. See, now it just couldn't hold the flame. So we're going to fluff it up a little more, give it another go. Now I would say on this soaking test that, like any other fine tinder, it is going to be very stubborn to get it going. Now, I've watched a lot of videos where they've soaked it, lit it, and it took right off. I can't see what I'm doing differently, and I'm throwing a lot of heat to it. Was it because it was 2 hours that I let it soak? I don't know. But looks like I got it going now, but will it stay? No. It just will not hold a fire. And I mean, I squeezed all the water I could out of it. Fibers are well broken up. So unless you've got a good fuel source like a cigarette lighter, I would not count on it if it got soaking wet. Any more than I would count on natural fiber fire starters. I would say it equals birch bark when it comes to being damp and wet like that. However, now looking at this, if this whole thing got dropped in the water, if you got it in the stick form, I believe that if you drop this in the water, only the ends would be affected. You cut a small 1/4 inch section off of each end, the core is all going to be dry, and you should be able to get a very good sustainable starter out of it. See, right now I could have used natural fibers, birch, cedar, other natural fibers, and made myself a bird's nest, put it in my shirt for a while, and especially if I have a cotton t-shirt on, that'll absorb a bunch of the moisture out, and I could probably get it to strike and hold fire. But this is just unable to sustain a fire. It's getting drier, of course, from sitting. It wants to take off, but it's just unable to sustain itself. See, it's already, yeah, it just won't sustain itself after it's soaked. So because of that, you would have to have a way to keep this out of the air, or not out of the air, in the air, out of the rain or water source for an extended period of time, all fluffed up so that it can dry itself, and then it should ignite fine. But with a ferro rod, there's no way. There's no way you could get this. There's no way you could get this to ignite and maintain. I don't care how big your ferro rod is. If a consistent gas flame to it you can get it to start, but you can't get it to, see, it goes out. It just won't, it just can't sustain itself. So, okay, on that water test, I have to say it failed. It failed the water test. I feel bad. I feel bad. However, on the dry test, we're just going to cut another piece off. Set that aside. So, what would my conclusion be? Okay. As a dry tinder, Firestarter, I give it a 10. I really do. I got it lit with ferro rod. I'm going to light this with cigarette lighter, but I got it lit with ferro rod without a lot of effort, and the burn time was excellent. And I have seen videos of it being put in water and then that it lights just as easy. I'm sorry, but it doesn't here. It didn't work here. And I have to be honest. I have to be honest. I had higher expectations of it wet, which I shouldn't have had any expectations, because until you've tried it, you don't know, right? So, okay, so I just cut a tiny little, about 1/4 inch off, fluffed it up, and I could even fluff it more. But I got a really nice handful of tinder here. And we'll just set that tinder down there. And we're going to use cigarette lighter to make it quick. I know this video is long, but I want to really show you what this does. So, that fast. I mean, just touch it with cigarette lighter and it's off and running. Now we're going to try something. We're going to put this damp stuff on top of it. Now you can see the smoke. That's all the moisture in that damp stuff trying to burn off. So in conclusion, would I recommend this? Absolutely. I would absolutely. In fact, I'm going to be buying a few of these. I want one in every one of my backpacks, my day pack. I want one in my truck. I want a couple in my adventure trailer, because they are a heck of a fire starter. Check that out. Okay, now I'm going to put some more of this damp stuff on it. We'll see if that can get that damp stuff going. What I would recommend, run out, get yourself a couple of these. I would drop them in a little Ziploc plastic bag, zip them shut, stick them in my pack. Then you don't have to worry about the moisture, because as I showed, as a dry tinder, getting it started, no problem whatsoever. In fact, very, very efficient. But the wet, look at that, it's actually putting it out. It does not perform any better than any other tinder when it's wet. But when it's dry, it takes off like $1,000,000. You could get a fire going in no time. Even in damp, wet conditions, if you have this and it's dry, it'll give you that base fire to get small kindling, dried out enough that it would ignite, and you can add damper wood to it and have yourself a nice fire. So again, I would recommend this. And as a dry fire starter, it gets a 10. It gets 2 thumbs up. As a wet fire starter, I'm not going to rate it, because I couldn't get it to hold a fire. So I'll just say, as a wet tinder, don't depend on it. It may work for you, it may not. So I would not, I wouldn't bet my life on it if it was soaked, if it got soaked, okay? But boy, yeah, I'd bet my life on it if it's dry. Good product, guys. Good product. I love it. And I will be buying several, like I said, and having those in my pack. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And I tried to be as honest as possible. And you saw the effects. You saw how it played out. So it is what it is. And it is a great product. Bravo to those guys. Bravo. Good product. Keep it up. Can't wait to see what you come up with in the future. So, folks, down in the description, links to Blackbeard fire starters. Check out the description. At the end of this video, it'll pop up. You can click on it, take you right to their YouTube channel. Hey, again, thanks for tagging along. Love y'all. Hey, keep your fires dry and hot, especially on a cold day. Hey, goodbye.